And welcome back to another edition of the MLB Inside the Diamond podcast. I'm your host, Tom Johnston. I'm joined by LaMarr Fields. How you doing, man?
Pretty good yourself?
Yeah, it's just another fine, lovely day in paradise. Now, we wanted to let the baseball world play itself out and everything like that, so that we could give a deep dive into content. A lot of managerial changes have occurred. More importantly, though, the Texas Rangers are World Series champs, and just getting into that, they've appeared in three World Series, including this one, but it's their first one that they've won. And a lot of factors, I remember how LaMarr at the beginning of the season talked about how the Bruce Bochy effect would come into play, and yet it did, and LaMarr, give us some insights about that. Bruce Bochy isn't just your average quote unquote manager. He has a certain effect to him that not a lot of other managers have.
Yeah, he's a old school manager. Believes in see there, believes in playing with the old school way of baseball. A little bit less analytics. Um, just playing off field and how to off the game's going, and it worked. I mean, you can see it worked. A lot of the Diamondbacks played small ball, old school way of baseball to get there. Look at the managers that were left. Bruce Bochy and Dusty Baker was going at it. Two old school managers. So you can see baseball's not letting go of the old school ways just yet. Still can win baseball games playing that way.
Oh, definitely. And there's nothing wrong with that. And here's a fun, fruitful fact to the people out there. The Texas Rangers were actually leading the division. They were in first place for quite a fair amount of the season. I think it was like 145 or so games or something like that. They were in first place for a while, and then all of a sudden, like the last weekend of the season, it just kind of, I don't want to say fall apart, but like Houston they found a groove, and then they won the division. But then I think that set a fire in the Texas Rangers
Diamond.
because they went out and they pretty much just they destroyed everything. I mean, they destroyed everyone in their path, to be fair and honest with you. And it's just like, LaMarr, I want you to take the people through like the entire playoff run for Texas. It just seemed like no matter where they were on fire, whether it was at home, but more specifically on the road.
Yeah, they played magnificent on the road. Won all the World Series, won all the ALCS games on the road. That's crazy. I never seen that before. It's just a good run by the Rangers. Just playing hard nosed baseball and getting the job done.
Absolutely. And that's something I don't think a lot of people understand about the game of baseball and stuff. I mean, to see some of now, I don't have every stat in front of me, but to just see some of the stats that actually occurred throughout this postseason, it was actually very crazy to say the least as to how everything went down, how everything just transpired. And just I think for a fair amount, there were road teams that were winning more than the home teams, and that's really unheard of, um, especially in baseball, especially in the playoffs. But outside of that, some un- some great news that Dusty Baker is retired, but it's unfortunate because you're not going to have a manager like Dusty Baker. And LaMarr, just break down some of the key characteristics that Dusty brought to baseball. I mean, he had 26 years of professional baseball experience, but the vast majority of the success he has had came as a manager.
Well, been around baseball a long time and played the game, so players respect that when you got a manager that actually played the game. And he's a good players manager and stuff, but wasn't scared to, get on the players if he needed to. But yeah, like they said, you could be a player. Once you play the game of baseball, the players seem to respect you more, and he always had good teams everywhere he went. Coached some great players, was able to relate to the players. That's the key right there. If you know baseball and can relate to the players, that's your job right there.
No, absolutely. And it's just, I mean, it's insane to just see that, like he's had 20 plus years in the game of baseball. I mean, it's a well deserved retirement for him. He's, I believe, in his 70s. I mean, just the rigors of the game and how it translates.
Yeah,
At a certain point, you call it a time, but I mean, as much as the dude has, last year he won his first World Series, but I mean, even to think about some of the teams that he has touched besides the Astros as a manager, like you hit on, it's just there wasn't a man. Dusty Baker is just a unique manager to say the least. I know that the baseball world is going to miss him, but whenever you have over 2,000 plus career wins, I mean 2,183 to be exact, and three pennants. I mean that goes to show a lot. I mean he found a way to win whenever it mattered, and no matter how he inherited the Astros, he found a way to win. And at that level, that's what matters the most is winning. You have to win at all costs, no matter it. And I think that no matter which league you look in, that's also a difference is how you win the game when it matters the most. Now that brings us to our next topic, which is managers, because Dusty goes out. Well, who all comes in? Well, let's put it this way. I've never seen this many transactions and managers in like the span of like so much, but I want to first riddle on this one because Craig Counsell, and it's ironic because there's two managers that did this in the offseason already. Craig Counsell goes from the Brewers to the Cubs, but LaMarr, I really question this part. 5 years, $40 million plus. I mean, this guy's going to be making $8 million a year, like just sitting on the bench and managing. I mean, you don't even see like the Yankees pay some guy to manage their ball club, and all of a sudden the Cubs are going to overpay for this guy's services. And I want your thoughts on that contract, LaMarr. Like 5 years, $40+ million to be a manager.
yeah, it's a pretty good contract for him. Uh, all I'm gonna say is he better win quick. Cubs had a almost made the playoffs last year, so they banking on him to come in and get him over the playoff hump. So he's gonna have to get that job done. I mean, he had some good years with Milwaukee. Um, be interested to see what he does there with the Cubs. 5 year, 40 million. You better make a difference. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
I'm telling you, whenever you're a manager and you sign a contract like that, like I think the expectations are you better get this team into the playoffs, but more specifically, we're not settling for a wild card. We're settling for winning the division and like being like automatically within the NLDS. Or we want to go to the NL because like that. I
Yeah,
mean, truth be told, just even looking at that contract, that's kind of absurd for a team to give a manager. Like even if you like, and not that I got a whole list of great managers in front of me, but like you're the manager. You're like most teams a year would probably be willing to like at minimum like 500,000, but at maximum maybe like 1 million, a little over $1 million a year. But I mean, my God, like what they're going to be paying him, what it averages out to be, it's just like you could honestly give that to an everyday player that takes the field and actually get more production than like what you're paying him because then it's like, okay, not that I'm trying to be devil's advocate or be the bad guy here, but what happens if things turn sour? That's like everybody looks at you and like, why'd you give him that long term deal? Like, why did you give him that big of a deal? It's like I
Yeah,
mean,
they must
first
think
off,
he,
it's
they
crazy.
must think he's gonna make a difference. So we'll see what happens. If they win, then it's a good hire. If they don't win, not a good hire, pretty much. So I basically come down to winning and losing.
Oh, it does. It
Yeah,
does. No matter what level you are, winning and losing plays a pivotal role. Now on to the next guy, Ron Washington, who has spent, I believe it's the past 7 years on the Atlanta Braves coaching staff, gets another stint as a manager, this time with the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. LaMarr, I want your thoughts on this considering what's happened to the Angels this year. Do you think that this can turn some fortunes around? And ironically, the last time he managed was with the Texas Rangers. So, what's your thoughts on that hiring for the Angels?
I like that hiring for the Rangers. I mean, another old school guy who's gonna come in and bring in the old school ways. Who's gonna manage with how the game going, not what the computers say as per se. But glad to see him get another crack at it. I mean, he wasn't too bad at Texas when he was there, but he wasn't great either. But he finished had a 500 record, won 664 games at Texas, and I think he's gonna be a good manager for the Angels. They need somebody like that who can come in and be a little bit tough on the players and been around baseball a long time, so he knows the game inside out. So I think that's what the Angels gonna need going forward.
Anything to help Mike Trout get into the playoffs, I would guesstimate at all
Yeah,
costs because it's just looking more and more bad on the Angels with how this entire season happened, how it
yeah,
went down. I honestly think that it's a smart hire for the Angels. I mean,
yeah. And he also managed the back-to-back World Series appearances in 2010, 2011. So he can be successful in the AL West.
exactly. And I think that's really what makes it a home run hire is having a manager that's familiar with it, having a manager that knows how to run things, but more importantly, be a little tough on these ball players, just find a way to get your point across and keep going at it. And I think it's a home run hire. It's just now, I honestly just don't think that that's enough to persuade Otani to even stare or think about offering Otani something that might be qualifying. I think that the Angels are like totally lost on that, but I would love to just see a season where you have Otani and Trout on the same team with Ron Washington managing and just see where it might go.
Yeah,
There's a slim chance it could happen, but I think that that is very, very, very slim.
yeah, very slim. I don't think he's going.
And then the Cleveland Guardians hire Stephen Vogt. I hope or Vogt as a new manager.
Vote, yeah.
Um, I know he just recently retired as a player not too long ago, as I think a couple years back. Um, he's going to replace the outgoing Terry Francona, so that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, his name's popping up a lot in the off season. The Giants job and a couple other jobs I was reading about. But they always say catchers make good managers, so he gets his shot right away. So gonna be interesting to see what the Guardians do. They always play hard and put together a decent team. So really interesting. I'm watching the Guardians closely this year to see how Volt adapts to the managerial role from played in 2022. So he definitely gonna be able to relate to the players. So that's gonna be a good plus. Just gonna see what kind of managerial style he gonna have, what he gonna do in crucial situations. So it's gonna be interesting.
And then Joe Espada is the new Astros manager. To put this in context, he was the bench coach for the Astros, and then he presumably just takes over the role. He's very excited, very humbled about it. But I do know that with Vogue, he's actually now the second or first youngest manager now, just based off of experience and age wise, because he's only 39, I think it said.
Hmm.
I know he's in his late 30s, nearing his 40-year mark, but I mean, definitely. There, I would agree. Catchers do make great managers after a while. Now that makes me want to do some research about the catchers that have since turned into managers and how well they've actually done because they got a lot on their plate as a catcher.
Yeah, a lot. Got to manage the pitching staff to call a game.
Definitely. And then here's a crazy one. Carlos Mendoza is now the Mets manager, and this is where it gets a little iffy because he was a part of the Yankees last year on that coaching staff. Now he switches over to Queens. That's gonna be an interesting story heading into the 2024 baseball season, considering how the Mets really spent a lot of money and it went downhill pretty quickly for him.
Yeah, went down here bad, but they still got to pay a little bit for the players that they traded away. But I mean, they got the contracts, basically the contract off the book going forward, freed up some money that they can retool and try to could spend money again and get more players. They got Mets got money, so they can spend a lot of money again this offseason. Hopefully, this time it works out for them. But they did a good job trading those players away and getting some young prospects, so that way they get to rebuild their prospects, rebuild their farm system, and they have money to go sign players. So I think it'll be interesting to see how they handle this free agency period.
It's also interesting to see how Steve Cohen, just multi-billionaire, he got money to spend, he's spending it. But I think people are relaxing off the term spending because you know. And then here's the most interesting one. Bob Melvin. Oh boy. Goes from the San Diego Padres to the Giants. Lamar, I really want your thoughts on this one. This is going to be the most interesting one out of them all.
Yeah, it was interesting to see a division rival let the Giants have grant the Giant grant the Giant permission to interview Melvin. I was shocked at that, but come to find out, I guess Melvin and the AJ Preller they wasn't getting along, so they Padres pretty much like good riddance. I guess they didn't see eye to eye. But as for the Giants case, I think it's a good hire for the Giants. I mean, Bob Melvin got experience, experience working with Melvin when he was with the A's. So you kind of go with kind of players that Farhan Zaidi likes to go after. Hoping Melvin can come in there and convince him to chase some of these bigger names, so the Giants can have bigger names on the team to help them win. But I think it's a good hire for the Giants. He was one of the guys I wanted the Giants to hire. I wanted either Melvin or the guy to Astros Sparta. I wanted him. He was one of my choices before too for the Giants. But we see how it played out. Melvin's a good manager. He's proven a lot. He can win a lot of games with a lot lesser talent from his years with the A's. So we see how it pan out.
Definitely. That's why these changes are made, just to see how things do pan itself out. Now, down to our last two questions that I do have on this rundown. We have a little over 4 minutes left, about 4:30 right now. I want your biggest shocking performance, like the team that shocked you the most, wise in the 2023 postseason and why?
Ooh, team. Ooh, that's a good question. That's a good question. Uh, I'm gonna go with. Let's see. Hard to say. If I had to pick a team, I would go with the. I would go with the.
I love when I make these questions tough on both of us.
I'm gonna go with the Marlins. I won 84 games, and made the they made the play in, right? Yeah, they made the play
Yeah,
in, I think.
they could play.
And yeah, I didn't see that coming. We made 4 games. I mean, it's a lot of teams. The Cubs were close, won 83 games. Other than that, Diamondbacks, you could say the Diamondbacks. You could say the Diamondbacks too. Nobody thought the Diamondbacks were gonna make the playoffs, let alone make the World Series. Yeah, I would to say I would, and yeah, I would go with the Diamondbacks. No, I saw yeah, Diamondbacks. Nobody had them making the playoffs. Nobody had them going in the World Series. Yeah, I think the Diamondbacks biggest shocker for me.
I would say the biggest shocking performance in the 2023 postseason, I'm gonna just flat out say it, the Baltimore Orioles. And the reason I say that is because they
Mhm.
look so dominant in a regular season, and then in the postseason, it's just like the I think it was the Texas Rangers. Oh my God,
Yeah,
I'm blunt, but like they literally just took them out as if like Baltimore never existed in this season. And I know a few Orioles fans that like they took that to heart because it's just like I don't believe as long as Adley Rushman has actually been in their lineup, they have not lost a series. And it's just
yeah.
like all of a sudden, like all the hype and it's like all that went down the drain. Because my next question would have been the reverse: is who was the not so like biggest shocking performance in the 2023 postseason? I like how I just kind of come up with questions and it's actually the reverse, but then it kind of just like makes no sense. But yeah, I mean, I would say the not so biggest shocking performance for me would be the Dodgers. I mean, again, they kind of just show the Dodgers can do what it takes to win in the regular season, but whenever it comes to the
Hmm.
postseason, yeah, it really
Yeah,
doesn't matter who they got.
yeah. I'll say Dodgers as well too. They didn't have the pitching staff this year. I expect them to make a run at Otani and go get some retool that pitching staff. I think it's time for them to let Kershaw go. I mean, Kershaw had a good year, but playoffs failed again. So it's time to go. I think it's time for them to retool their pitching staff and see what happens.
We got less than a minute and a final note that I have on this rundown. Ladies and gentlemen, I think I've also gotten proven wrong. You can spend a boatload of money and still not find the postseason because the
Hmm.
Yankees, Padres, and Mets both are the top three spenders for this league's fiscal season, and neither one made the playoffs, and that's crazy.
Yep, goes to show you can spend money, but you gotta spend money in the right places.
Exactly. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the MLB Inside the Diamond podcast. For LaMarr Fields, I'm Tom Johnston. We'll see you guys on the next one.